Good evening, Excellencies on the dais, Mr. Mishra, our former secretary, ladies and gentlemen, delegates who have been with us for the last 2 days. Very, very warm welcome to our final session of the 17th Sustainability Summit. Thank you very much, Excellencies and Mr. Mishra, for joining us. We are extremely grateful to you. As we begin this final session, I'll take a few minutes to basically present some highlights of the last 2 days. And this is more for our speakers, distinguished speakers, and some of you who may have not been able to attend all the sessions. We had so many panel sessions. I'm aware that some of you had to choose between sessions. So this is also a summary for some of you as well. So key highlights, as we all know, we had the inaugural session of the summit yesterday, where our Honorable Minister, Shri Chaubey, the Minister of State for Environment, Forest, Climate Change, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, he was our chief guest. So we had Secretary Sudhanshu Pandeyji, who Department of Food and Public Distribution, Ministry of Consumer Affairs, as a keynote speaker. That was our inaugural. We started that yesterday. Other, key speakers that we had ranged across, again, international speakers, speakers from the government, also CEOs, and totally we had almost 116 speakers in the last 2 days, out of which 32 speakers were female speakers. We ensured that we had women speakers almost on every panel. In some panels, we had more than one women speaker because we wanted to ensure that we did take care of the diversity issue as well. And we were delighted. We had 21 global speakers. A lot of them flew in to join us in person, but we also allowed some of the speakers to join, especially global speakers, to join virtually. So this was learning through the pandemic that we can have more global participation if we have, this combined hybrid mode. We were joined by overall 350 participants over the 2 days. I also wish to thank all the organizations who have partnered with us for this summit. After 2 years of virtual summit, I think it was really nice to have everyone join in for a physical summit. And I think the vibe and the buzz and the networking was a very, very important element of the last 2 days. In fact, the 2 days, and we know that the themes and the themes of the summit and many deliberations and key discussions around topics of enabling technology for a sustainable tomorrow. As you know, this theme is building a sustainable tomorrow and converting risks into opportunities. How do we transform risks into opportunities? The entire deliberation of each session was that, of course, there are certain risks that we see, but how do we as industry, as different stakeholders, convert these into opportunities and build a more sustainable tomorrow? Very interesting session on enabling technology for sustainable tomorrow. What are the risks that we see globally and what are the interconnections both globally and locally? A big theme was around disclosures, ESGs, and corporate action around all the theme of disclosure and ESG. Climate was another theme, and we talked about the transition to net zero. We also talked about just transition towards for decarbonization. Another theme was across value chains and the need to bring value chains into this entire conversation on sustainability. We also focused on startup champions on sustainability and women champions on sustainability as torchbearers, and I think we had very interesting discussions. I also want to mention that, the summit witnessed launch of 5 initiatives of the CII-ITC Center of Excellence for Sustainable Development. We had the minister launch the CII Climate Action Charter. And once again, we are grateful. We have enlightened businesses, the leaders, almost 50 plus businesses who have already signed up. And we want more and more to sign up for the CII Climate Action Charter. We launched the CII Working Group on Carbon Capture, Utilization and Storage. Again, an attempt to build, a industry coalition to work on carbon capture, utilization and storage. NITI Aayog is our partner on this. We launched the CII-CESD ESG Intelligence and Analytics Initiative. It's a service that we provide, and we have a diagnostic tool and an assessment tool which provides companies with ESG intelligence and analytics. We launched the Eco Edge service, which is the value chain decarbonizing circularity initiative. And this is something that is new, and we think that there's a lot of need for companies who are beginning their transition journey to work with their value chain. And finally, we launched the India Wetland Coalition, again a coalition by industry in response to the government of India's call to have wetland restoration as a focus area. This was launched again under the India Business Biodiversity Initiative that CII hosts. These were the 5 launches that took place, and I encourage all of you to again look at them and become a part of these initiatives, take advantage of the CII platform. So many sessions, of course, many launches. I like to just summarize key points. And there are 3 buckets under which the points are summarized. And this is more, of course, for all of you, but also as we go into the session, maybe the key speakers can keep this in mind as they talk about the way for building a sustainable tomorrow. So a big theme was partnerships and collaboration. As you know, the entire effort of the CII Center of Excellence has been to be an ecosystem player, bring people together. So essentially, the message that came out was that we need to align if we want to make systemic changes, we need to bring together ecosystem level partnerships and get all stakeholders together. And while we know the traditional stakeholders of government, industry, associations, customers, employees, investors, vendors, suppliers was also something that we heard, which was probably very well established that all these need to work together. There's also discussion around the social aspects. And again, for the social aspect, one of the things was that we need to move beyond just merely relying on legislation to work on social aspects. And partnerships can play a great key role because we are in a learning phase when it comes to the social aspect. And again, where partnerships that will enable scale up of action, scale up of the impact that we are looking, because maybe individual companies may not be able to solve certain issues, may not be able to make that impact, but if we collaborate, then as sectors, as cross-sectoral companies, we may be able to make a bigger impact. In the area of decarbonizing, the partnership issue came up as in the focus or as being a focus on skilling and reskilling of workforce. Again, repurposing of land and infrastructure, creating decent work opportunities, and creating social support systems for people whose lives and livelihoods are going to be affected by this transition. So again, all of these require collective action because I don't think that the transition requires so much change. And as we look at the societal issues associated with that change, which is what the just transition is all about, partnerships will play a crucial role. So the partnership area had these broadly 3 key messages, many more, but we have put them in the 3 messages. And the messages are something that we heard more strongly this year than we've been hearing before. There was also a bucket on corporate action. CII is all about corporates, all about businesses, and of course, a lot of discussions around what corporates can do. A couple of points that really jumped out was, in fact, a very important message strongly came out was that strong commitment is needed at the top level, creating any kind of real long-term impact looking at sustainability issues, especially called out issues of diversity and gender because that is something our leaders still need to focus much more on. That came out very strongly. While I think the climate issue is getting its attention, diversity is really not getting that much of attention. Diversity and gender needs that. I talked about value chain in the partnership part, but also in corporate action. Value chains came up in the context of the transition to a circular economy, which requires complete engagement of the value chain of any product or service that we might choose, because it cannot be achieved without every touch point of the value chain, including consumers, and also the need to have newer business models. So corporates have this responsibility to come up with newer business models to leave behind the linear model. And for that, again, value chain becomes a very important thing. On corporate action, a call out for the financial sector came out very strongly. And this is in the context of if we want, and we are looking at the real world to make the transition in terms of decarbonizing. And for the real world to make the transition, the real sectors, steel, cement, the financial sector has to also come up to speed, has to really integrate climate risks into their own risk management. And of course, there was a mention that RBI is now gearing up to nudge the financial sector to work positively towards establishing ESG as a more mainstream concept. Finally, a theme around enabling technology for sustainable future. I think we had an extremely interesting discussion with almost all major technology players being there. And in fact, lots of messages, the key message being technology to become an enabler for building a sustainable tomorrow. The technology has to be, the basic need is technology has to be accessible, transparent, and auditable data set has to be available across all key business processes. So how do we integrate technology and make it accessible, make it usable for meeting sustainable goals came out strongly. A new term, or maybe not a new term, but another term that came was green IT was used in the summit. Green IT can help in creating sustainable processes, leveraging environmental initiatives, spreading green awareness, and also reduce energy consumption, etc. So green IT, how that came out also in the summit. Of course, we know technology can be used to scale up solutions and, importantly, make them accessible to the base of the pyramid. So, how do we make sure that technology is not only in the vast majority of the industrial applications, which is very important, but finally it also goes down to the grassroots level, for example, the agriculture, the farmer, etc. So, at the bottom of the pyramid, at the grassroots level, how do we make it accessible? Special call out for bio-based technologies along with IP solutions to be playing an important role in the transition to net zero. So these were the key points. I'm sure I've not covered everything and I apologize for that. But we tried to put out a few points which as CII-ITC Center, CII, we would like to hopefully convert into an action agenda and see how we can build conversations, build dialogues, build even pilots to demonstrate how this can be done in the coming year. And as I now request the speakers of our valedictory session to come in, request you to keep that in mind and also, of course, put in your own guidance and thoughts on how we can build a sustainable tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for valuable insights. Now, I'd like to invite Mr. C.K. Mishra, former Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change, Government of India, to share his insights. So, please.
Thank you. Excellencies, Seemaji, all our friends present here. I'm sure you have had a great day discussion on sustainability, which is currently the most lucid thing to talk about everywhere. Not just because it's in fashion, but I guess because it's in need. You can't do without it. But first and foremost, let me thank CII for inviting me to this session pretty much after a long time. And thank you, Seemaji. I hope this is sustainable. But friends, in the context, as Seemaji mentioned, sustainability has got various dimensions. And she said that climate has got much attention. There are certain issues which have not got attention. There are people who are not exactly thinking the same thing, meaning the same thing. And I guess as long as globally we mean the same thing, it doesn't really matter what taxonomy you use. So, in this context, let me tell you, a friend of mine recently was arguing, and he's a knowledgeable person who knows that we are unduly being pushed into the corner it's not yet there. So as if science was not enough to tell us what is going to happen. I mean, he didn't even look at things like Pakistan or US, so several aspects that are going around the world. So we need to first and foremost acknowledge that we have a problem on hand if we want any solution to that problem. Slowly, that acknowledgement is coming across industry, across people's body, across the global organizations and organizations like this. But the issue is that we now in that emergent state of affairs where we need to move beyond these discussions to something very concrete. Where is it that we are seeking sustainability? Technologies, certainly. Finance, yes. Organizations, obviously. Value chains. It's actually all over. And if you ask me, sustainability is not really about actions that will follow. It's about the mindset. It's about the thought process that goes into businesses. It's about the thought process that goes into politics, into governance, that will determine where we want to head on sustainability. And last 2 days, you've been hearing a lot about it, and you will hear very, very concrete things from both the excellencies on stage here because their countries are leaders in what we are talking about. What I would really like to do today is talk of a couple of thoughts that come to my mind. First and foremost is the fact that we may not be the biggest beneficiaries of sustainability because people say the impact is not going to come in our lifetimes. But please remember that we are responsible for spoiling things for this generation. We need to at least ensure that we take that responsibility and improve things for the future generation. And that is why it is absolutely imperative that businesses now and society and organizations focus on this. It's not even about geographies. If few countries move towards complete sustainable lifestyle, living, everything, and the rest don't, the unfortunate part is those countries can't really take it easy because they'll be as much affected as anybody else who did not take action. So here's an idea where taking action is not enough. It has to be a global action, partnership, collaborations, as it was being pointed out. So when we look at the way ahead, what is it that we are looking at really? Decarbonization, perhaps yes, as a mode of going to sustainability. Green technologies, perhaps yes. But then technologies do not come on their own, they come with a cost. So two critical elements in building a sustainable production side, technology and finance. As the world stands today, finance is unlikely to come from to the extent that was promised from global sources. There's no point debating that any longer. It's a proven fact that it will not. Technology is also not going to break barriers and flow free. So my feeling is that every country will have to have a plan for itself. The sustainability ability will have to be driven by country-specific needs and country-specific technologies, which really means innovation, which really means a lot of work on local technology, and it also really means what Shivaji was talking about, converting risks into opportunities. I always tell people who are in the business today that we are nearing a future where if the product is not green, it's not going to fetch a good price globally. So it is in our interest to actually invest that finance for the future of the company. Similarly, We are talking, but we always seem to take the easy route out, smaller technologies, better equipments, etc. We need to also look at the hard to abate segments. I mean, I would urge organizations like CII to focus on that, something that is not likely to come by itself, something that needs a far more collaborative effort to attain. So if CII and other organizations can come together to get that for the hard to abate segment, then perhaps as a country, particularly in the Indian context, we are looking at somewhat better future. Then everybody in the world today is talking about energy transition. Yes, energy transition is very critical. But let me also tell you that energy transition is not the only thing that is going to help sustainability. But if you look at the flow of finances globally, almost 80% of whatever is going into sustainable efforts or green technology is going into the renewable power sector. I think time has come when globally we need to sit and think if that is the best approach. That is certainly a very good approach. But is that enough? Is the thought process that we need to. And energy transition is not just about switching from, fossil fuels to renewables. It's about a gamut of other activities of value chain activities which will determine whether there's been an energy transition or not. And we need to emphasize, for example, in India, if we want to build in a sustainable production model, which is our biggest target, this has been a matter of debate for long. I very strongly feel that unless we attend to MSMEs, we'll reach nowhere. So for India, according to me, the focus of incentives, the focus of technology, the focus of finance should be MSMEs. It is there that we must build this infrastructure, we must build this platform. And, there are many talks. Industry after industry, country after country have been declaring net zero. I mean, net zero has a meaning for a country which has a large amount to contribute to the overall levels of GHG. Countries with very small contribution, they're going to net zero actually doesn't impact the world. So the entire concept needs to be re-examined. And before I finish, I want to leave one thought behind. Seminar after seminar, we discussed sustainable production, we discuss ESG, we discuss corporate governance for sustainability. I think even industries and bodies of industry need to start a conversation not just on sustainable production, but on sustainable consumption. Production is time taking, finance taking, hard to come by. If we can work on the consumption side very well, perhaps we will reach a stage where we will be able to declare that we are moving towards sustainable. I mean, this entire gamut of activity for sustainability, nothing is standalone and adequate. Circularity, for example, is very good, but not the ultimate thing that we are looking at. So I'll come back to my original idea that sustainability is about mindset. It's about thought process. It's about the process of governance. And I can definitely say that time has come when sustainable society becomes a political agenda and not just a business agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insights. Now I'd like to invite His Excellency Freddie Swan, Ambassador, Royal Danish Embassy, New Delhi, to please come on stage.
Thank you very much indeed. Of course, extremely thrilled and having great pleasure coming here and addressing you. It's my yesterday I attended 2 of the similar conferences, and this is the third in 2 days. And we're all talking about all these fantastic things. I brought you the solution. This is my business card, and I call it a ticket to green growth. So if you want to really connect with us, I share all my details with you, and then you will see how we can develop a more sustainable world. Of course, I'd like to thank my good colleagues up here, and first of all, Ms. Shima, and also my Finnish colleague, Ritva, and the former Secretary Mishra. I told him after having listened to his speech that he should not have retired, because what he just said is really so to the point and should really be guiding all of us. Denmark is a small country, and Secretary rightly mentioned that small countries will not have that impact globally. And it's true, but you need really to have countries who are setting the agenda and taking things forward. And of course, our impact is almost zero, but it's not the point here. The point is here, we need to combine the dots. And how have we done that? We have developed a green strategic partnership with India, and that is really connecting some dots. And with your 1.5 billion inhabitants and 6 million Danes, we are still 1.5, perhaps even 1.6 billion people who are looking towards the same objectives and based on the same principles. And that's really important. That's about international global cooperation. And that's the only way forward. Our Green Strategic Partnership is built upon a combination of Indian missions. Your Honorable Prime Minister, the Indian government has launched so many different missions, from green hydrogen, Swachh Bharat, Jal Jeevan, and so forth. And now, most recently, the objective of changing India from being a developing country and in 25 years to become the leader of the developed world. It's a great ambition. It calls for a lot of stakeholders to be involved. The 5 S's that we have built on, and they're all formulated by your Honorable Prime Minister, is, of course, the scale of India. It's not just the size of the population, it's also about your ability, proven capability and capacity to scale up all kinds of solutions, and that's really, really important. Secondly, the skills of Denmark. We also say India has a lot of skills, and you have, but skills meaning technical solutions. Very, very, very important. And we need to see transfer of technology. We cannot sit in Copenhagen, we cannot sit in Helsinki or in London or wherever we like to sit and tell India what to do, or the developing countries. We need to transfer, we need to finance, we need really to engage, not only at a corporate level or government to government level, we also have to really cooperate from person to person, people to people. That's really, really, really important. The scope of what we're doing is not just alone for Denmark or for India, it has to go beyond that. So whatever we're doing has to reach out. The last mile connectivity. The lady who is sitting in Rajasthan trying to feed her kids in the evening should also benefit from what we are doing, because they have the problem and they don't know what sustainability is about, or green technology or energy transition. So they have a different agenda, a different lifestyle. Then, of course, speed. I mean, today it was pouring down here in Delhi, and it's pouring down in Denmark, and it's out of the normal pattern. So things are really changing, and we have the Sustainable Development Goals. Imagine the whole world has agreed on a number of goals that should bring sustainability when it comes to education, health, climate, and whatever and whatnot. So we have a common agenda, but the urgency is there. Therefore, we need speed. We also need to have sustainability. And when we had identified the four, five S's, then Modi said to our Prime Minister, we also need to be sustainable. So it all boils down that whatever we are doing, we have to be sustainable. And I don't believe in only asking the corporates and the management to really develop sustainability or sustainable solutions or takes kind of responsibility in that regard. It all boils down to you and me, all of us. We have to take individual responsibility. Then if we are not doing that, we'll come nowhere. Recently, a couple of days ago, the Danish Prime Minister announced in New York at the UN Nations General Assembly, Denmark now accepts loss and damage. That's been up for discussion for so many years, and the Danish government has decided to set aside a facility so we can pay damage to the developing countries and thereby helping them to avoid further losses. That's an important statement. We are the first country from the developed world. And I think that's the way forward, to take responsibility, to show responsibility and walk the talk. 2009, there was a famous COP15 in Denmark. I know from Jairam Ramesh, who was there representing the Indian government, he said, food was awful, weather was bad, it was so cold, and it was in a conference hall, so there was nothing that will really secure a compromise. But the only commitment that came out of that was that the developed countries committed $100 billion per year to the developing countries. If you dig in it today, no one has really honored that commitment. So all the talks about international cooperation, if we look into what is the evidence from what we have been discussing for so many years, there's really no delivery. So where will the delivery come from? It will come from you and me, because we have to take individual responsibility. The green consumer or the sustainable consumer will come. It will also come here in India. And it's a massive movement, and we need to secure a massive mobilization. I'm extremely happy to know that your Honorable Prime Minister is going to launch this LIFE initiative, which means that we have to showcase what we individually have done, and especially the younger generations, like those sitting there. I'm too old to be considered young, but these young people up there and yourself, you have developed so many good practices over time, and this should be really inspiring to all of you. Without your efforts, without your ideas, we'll come nowhere. So, in Denmark, based on the 5 S's, we have developed 3 G's. And it's not because we are not good at coming to 5D, but 3 G's, and they stand for good, great, and green. We have to be good in the sense that we have to pay respect to our neighbors, to our friends, our families, and the humanity as such. Because if we are not good to them, we will not be able to define a better, more sustainable future. So we have to be good in our way of behaving, buying, selling, manufacturing. Great, we have to do great things, and there's no way around it. I'm extremely happy that CII is a front mover out here. You have been talking about sustainability for many years. I've been here many years now. I've heard the sustainability being mentioned here, there, and everywhere. Have we come somewhere? Yes, we have. But did we come where we would like to be? No, not yet. But I hope CII and all the members of CII will really be more serious about coming to where we should be. Green. There is no way around things if we are not really developing green solutions. And whether it's green technologies or green mindsets, I don't care, but we have to be green in whatever we are doing. Don't expect your government or your secretaries or even your companies to help you out here. They will, to some extent, be helpful, but it only comes from yourself. So if you want to see this planet, Mother Earth, Mars surviving, you and I have to stop using plastic. I was born in the era of plastic fantastic, and today I have no taste for waste. I think the same mindset should be developed when we are talking about sustainability and green solutions. Last but not least, financing. We are talking about how we can get money to flow from mark sovereign funds, private entities, and so forth to help the developing countries. It can only happen if we change the called the Bretton Woods institution, like World Bank, IMF, and so forth. They were designed in a different era after the Second World War ended in Europe. Now it's a different ballgame, and I'm extremely pleased and happy to know that the Indian government, as one of the top priorities for G20 presidency, is ready to look into how can we design a global financial system that is catering for the needs of this planet of today. So I hope we will see a lot of things. And let me also criticize my own sovereign funds. And they will be angry with me, but I am very happy to criticize them. We have so many sovereign funds, and they will all come and tell you we are ready to invest. We are investing in green solutions. We have set aside a huge amount of billions of US dollars. But if you enter into discussion with them, what is their top priority? It's to generate return on their investments. And so many of the sovereign funds, they are only looking into how can I suck out as much profit as I can and should be to make my customers, my members happy. And I think they should be far more risk-taking, and we need to take risk for the future. So with these words, colleagues from my embassy, they are almost fainting, but that's fine. We need to take responsibility and don't believe because you are using green labels and sustainability as a label that you in reality is doing it. So we need to change individually. So I wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll see you, me, and our friends up here on the dais changing the world and changing the agenda, being much more sustainable. We deserve it, and our future generations need it. In your lap.
Thank you so much for your valuable insights. Now I would like to call Her Excellency Ritva Koku-Ronde, Ambassador, Embassy of Finland, to share her insights. Ma'am, please.
Distinguished panelists, dear guests, it's a really great honor for me to be here. I think last speaker, it's rather challenging. Everybody wants to go home. And actually, everything was said to what was, and I fully agree with the previous speakers. They were very wise in their words, and actually not much to add there. But I would share a few thoughts at the end of the day. Many countries, many people talk about sustainability. My country does it. We always say in Finland that there is that the work starts at home. If you have to clean, you start at home. Or if you have to do something innovative, you start first home and then you go out. For last decades, Finland has been ranked by the United Nations as one of the most sustainable countries in the world, together, by the way, with the other Nordic countries. But by the latest survey of the UN published earlier this year, Finland is again ranked as #1 in the world. I'm very proud of that, I must say, because we have to do very hard work. And as sustainability goes hand in hand with happiness that we haven't talked yet, Finland has been ranked the happiest country in the world for the last 5 years. So we have been doing something well. And these are undisputed facts. So you could see that happiness and sustainability, the mindset, actually here, what the former Secretary Mistra was saying, they go hand in hand. So be sustainable, happy, or the other way around. Sustainability is the core, actually, of my country, Finnish society. It's a way of living for us Finns. Of course, we are a very small country, but we are still bigger than we are as to our, in some of the areas, I would say, also globally. As the 7th largest country within the European Union in these ratings and rankings, has not come easy. It has taken decades of hard work to come where we are now, work where governments and corporates, organizations, individual people have been working together to improve the legislation on civil society positions and labor laws, set up platforms for R&D that leads to innovations that improve our air and water quality, energy efficiency, building standards, agricultural innovations, and food purity. By the way, Finnish food has been also ranked one of the purest in the world. These are also the building blocks why Finns really are happy, like I said, and that is functionality of the society and sustainable path to the future. And it is a very comprehensive way. And this is not only the government's task, actually, it is the consumers, but really the big money is actually in the corporates and in the companies, because they have to see that sustainability is good business and there is really profits to be done. What I see in Europe, what I see in the world, and what I see in India very strongly, and actually our chairperson also talked about that, is that sustainability is seen as a lifestyle. It is seen as a very profitable business, and the companies are looking at a sustainable, comprehensive way of doing businesses. Innovation platforms lay the foundation for Finnish economy's success and growth. Success that we have witnessed here also the last 2 days. Finnish companies like Lindström, Huhtamäki, Wärtsilä and Fortum have been telling how they changed the world for the better bit by bit. Finnish companies like Nokia, Neste and Finnair, who are among top sustainability leaders in the industry segments, have told also their stories by bit, not unfortunately in 1 day or in 1 year, but as a path to the really more sustainable global world. I couldn't agree more of the previous speakers on how the ecosystem and partnership, cooperation, where governments like Finland and India, where governments, Nordic governments or global governments have agreed to strengthen their collaboration and sustainability. And of course here the digitalization is a very important part when one thinks about future. There is enormous possibilities when you combine artificial intelligence and future quantum computing, for instance, and do some modeling on this. My government agreed, actually our Prime Ministers, Honorable Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Sanna Marin, they have agreed on 2 main partnerships. One is sustainability partnership and one is digital partnerships. And we have there very concrete action plans also. So we are really very, very glad and happy to cooperate with India in this field, thinking about India's so important role as a global leader also here, and thinking about that practically every fifth citizen in the world is Indian. Corporations and companies are also working together to reduce carbon footprint, reduce waste and recycle material, indeed in their business models as well. Companies like ITC have been working more with Finns and are industry leaders in this field also here in India. Work is unfortunately never done. We have a lot of work, and that's why Finland also generates most per capita in the world for startup companies to keep these innovations coming. We will really need startups to lead the way to future low-carbon economies. As an ambassador of Finland to India, I'm extremely happy to see that this startup collaboration is really active. And when there will be many India startups, for instance, going to the world's largest and coolest startup event called Slush in Helsinki this November. It is really organized also face-to-face and people are there. So we are only warmly welcome to Slush in cool temperature and cool event. Ladies and gentlemen, world needs collaboration if we want to mitigate climate change. That's why I'm also happy to tell that my country, Finland, is the first industrialized country in the world to become carbon neutral by 2035. And this is not just talk. We have also done 14 industry-level roadmaps how we will reach carbon neutrality by 2035. Again, no one else has done it so far. And we are more than happy to share these thoughts and to discuss how these carbon neutral roadmaps can be best implemented in Indian context. Global problems and challenges need global solutions. My country has developed many solutions that are some implemented already here in India, and we will further use to build a cleaner and better future together with India and other global friends. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, distinguished speakers, excellencies, and Mr. Mishra. I think you've added a lot more to our insights, and we are really grateful to you. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we come to a conclusion of our 17th Sustainability Summit. Thank you very much for staying with us for the last 2 days. I do hope you found all the deliberations useful. Do reach out to us in case you would like to have more details of anything. And we look forward to seeing you at the 18th Sustainability Summit. Thank you and goodbye.